Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Flenaugh. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I'm your host, TD Flenaugh, and we have here today Derek Steele. He is the executive director of the Social Justice Learning Institute, and he's going to give you some insights and tips as a father and as a professional about how you could help your children get on track for learning and stay on track for success.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I had a chance to listen to several episodes before mine, so I hope I can, live up to the promise
Wonderful.
of what this podcast is.
Thanks so much. So, can you tell us a little bit about your Social Justice Learning Institute?
hmm So the Social Justice Learning Institute exists here in the city of Inglewood, California. It was started in 2008 by Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza, but the original intent was to improve the overall education, health, and well-being of youth and communities of color. And we do that by empowering people and youth to enact the change they want to see in the world. We are an institute, so we do conduct research. I think what makes us unique is who's doing the research. It is our young people who, by way of participatory action research, are
Wow, so the young
selecting
people are the
the young
people who
people.
are doing the research. Okay.
That's
And
correct.
so participatory action research, tell us a little bit about that. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem, no problem. So, what youth participatory action research really is them getting a sense to analyze things that matter in their community, and then taking that information and learning college level research skills like being able to do literature review, landscape analysis, how to
Wow.
analyze data. We're also teaching them how to survey the community and take that information to come up with a solution toward the issue that they
Mm,
want to act, that they think is really important.
wonderful.
And we as an organization actually take that learning that they provide,
Hmm.
and we also create opportunities for those solutions to come to bear by way of our training that we may make available, or working with that young person, those young people, or those community members to be able to mobilize community around whatever issue that matters. At the end of the day, we exist to make sure people are able to use their own agency to change each other's lives, and I'm
Wonderful.
really excited to do that on a day-to-day basis.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us how you got into service? Like, what, when you were a youngster, what really got you into learning and giving back to
Mm.
the community like this?
It's a great question. I have to give it to my parents, right? My mother is one of 10. My father is one of 14, right?
Oh,
And
big
so,
family.
my father coming from North Carolina and moving to Pittsburgh, and my mom being from Coriopolis in Pittsburgh, and then moving to the city too. Education has always been a part of the fabric. Now, don't get me wrong, we got entrepreneurs in our family and people have made a way. But, as we continue to have progress, education has to be a part of that puzzle. So
Right.
my mom and my dad, made it a hard. It doesn't matter what you think you're doing. Education is going to be a part of the process. But I should also
Okay.
mention that they were, service was always a part of it as well. My father's a pastor, and so we always grew up service to others. And so
Okay.
I think that most times when you see service, education is not too far behind, right? You want to make sure you're mobilizing people around these ideas to be able to improve.
Right.
And so, but the education piece is not just we learned in school. It's learning about ourselves. I'm a black man in this world, and my father put the autobiography of Malcolm X in my hand. At 9, I started to really dive deep into the black experience,
Okay.
and learning about all types of people who have moved and shaped in this world. And so it's really about understanding the world around us too, and how you can make impact. So that actually helped me get to where it is today. So I think that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that.
Great. So, going back to the Social Justice Learning Institute, can you tell us, like, give us an example of one of the projects or research, um, topics that that you and the youth have been really just exploring?
It's great. I mean, we've had over 3,000 young people go through our programming, and we've been doing
Wow.
this since 2008. So there is a myriad of different types of projects that we've
Mm-hmm.
done. You know, it's not just the things that they see in their neighborhoods. It's also macro conversations around things they want to change in paradigms like education, right?
Okay.
So I'll give an example. There was one year where students did project on the impacts of police on their school campuses, right?
Mm.
Does the SRO actually make an impact, in a positive way? And
So
so
you
they
said
surveyed
SRO?
the sheriff sometimes on campus, particularly in LAUSD, the sheriff's department is actually on the campus physically,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so the resource officer is what they're called.
Oh, okay.
Does the resource officer actually make an impact in a positive way on their campus? And overwhelmingly, the students said no. So
Mm.
much so that out of that project and the research they had done behind it, there was a movement to actually remove police from school campuses, right?
Okay.
Because there were students who felt like the school environment felt like jail in ways. Like there
Mm.
was, and it's not conducive to the learning environment that we want them to have.
Okay, so hold
So,
on. So the kids were feeling like it felt like jail to have these
mhm,
officers on the campus. So what were
yeah.
some things that were happening on the campus to make them feel that way? What were they saying? What does the
Well,
research show?
that's a great question. So there's something called willful defiance. This is something that they researched and learned about,
Okay.
where a student can be suspended for school for just wearing their hat and not wanting to take it off. A student can be suspended from school just because they have a cell phone.
So
A
wait a
student,
minute.
whatever.
Wait. So if I just don't feel like taking my hat off today, it's a bad hair day. I need my hair done, or I got a bad haircut, and I'm like, I just don't want to take it off. It's going to be too embarrassing, and it's like you're going. What happens? I get arrested. What's going on?
This is a great question. So the teacher has the ability to have that student be removed from the classroom. Most times, the SRO is the one who comes to make the removal actually take place.
Okay, that
If the
resource
student is
officer.
defined in that moment, they actually could be arrested. Truancy is also another aspect. So like students are
Mm,
late to school or absent from school for several different reasons. A lot of times it has a lot to do with safe routes to school. Sometimes it has something to do with not having access to transportation in the morning. But
mm,
them not actually arriving to school late actually get them in trouble as well. So they can get suspended from school, depending on what the issue may be. They may have some level of arrest of some set,
mm-hmm.
depending on where they're coming from, where they're at.
So I could be
And so
handcuffed, like perp walked off the campus.
exactly, now there are
Mm.
other serious situations that may come up, like drugs on campus, or
Yes,
you know
yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
but it's a myriad of different things that take place. But the
Right,
question comes, what is the education environment for? Are we there
right.
to make sure that they can have a transformational educational experience? Are we there to actually create what looks like the school to prison pipeline just because of the type of people who are there? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah,
the
well, you didn't
students,
mention anything really that serious per se. So
right.
yeah, so that's a lot. Okay, so the school resource officer or the SRO was
Yeah.
really like clamping down on students in ways that made them just feel they were in a police state or something. Okay.
And they weren't feeling safe. And
Right.
not to mention that the way that the school rules are set up, it
Mm-hmm.
sets it up so that students who for varying reasons may not be as attentive in the classroom and stuff like that,
Right.
a teacher is put in a posture where they have to report on these students in that way, and it creates this situation where it's not a safe environment for learning. It actually is the opposite of that. And so
Mm-hmm.
students did two things out of that work. There was a movement towards police free schools, And there was also a movement towards ending willful defiance, right?
Okay. Because that was
Where
just
schools
everything.
and school districts have to work toward doing things that are more restorative on
Okay.
campuses to make it toward an environment where people and the young folk actually feel safe towards their learning expectations. You see what
So
I'm
this
saying?
blanket term, willful defiance, could go from me not wanting to take off my hat to more
Hmm.
serious things. So
Exactly.
making it, yeah, it's just like a blanket term. Okay.
It's like a blanket term for it. And so, so there was a movement towards willful defiance. And answering your question, I mean by saying this: not only did LAUSD end willful defiance, but they also have gone as far to make state law as well, right?
Okay.
So a
Yes.
project that started in the class with students asking questions of themselves about how they want to change the school environment has now turned into a state law where all schools across the state of California now have to be mindful towards willful defiance and also create restorative justice aspects to their school environments across the state. So
Well, I just want to
that's
just
how
pause.
far this
That's
actually goes.
amazing. That's amazing.
Mhm,
So you mentioned that this started in the classroom. So tell us what
mhm.
SJLI, like, if it comes onto the camp, or like what is how do kids get a part of it, or schools become a part of it?
Mhm. Great. So all of this that I'm talking about is a part of our program, our flagship program called Urban Scholars, right? And Urban
Okay.
Scholars is a class that's built for boys and men of color, particularly young Black men, that takes them through an experience of self identity, by way of social emotional learning, but that diving into self, but also in a community amongst your peers,
Mm-hmm.
helps you understand that one, you're not alone in many of the things that you feel,
Mm-hmm.
but also it starts to build community of the young folks who are actually in the classroom. Let me pause for a second. The Urban Scholars Program is actually a credit bearing class, so it's a
Okay.
class that you actually take for a grade, and
So
not
is it
most times it's
elective? Like
tied.
if I want to take music or something like that,
Yeah,
I take this class. Okay.
exactly, and it's usually tied to the ethnic studies elective,
Okay.
the history elective. So depending on the school and what the school needs, we can actually tie it to both.
So I could
We're
take
also
this
A through G.
class instead of ethnic studies, or it's like the same requirement.
Great question. We are A through G required in Antelope Valley as well as in Compton, so you actually can take it
Okay.
as a add on to your ethnic studies or history lesson. But
Okay.
in some schools, like in LAUSD, it's tied to a class that already exists.
Okay.
So we can so it our curriculum is used instead of the curriculum that was actually for the class, but the students still get the grade for it. You see what I'm saying?
For ethnic,
So
so ethnic
for
studies,
like
I
ethnic
could,
studies
you
or
could, okay, okay, cool.
exactly. Well, so that elective that might be there for your other studies elective, they may say, okay, we're going to use the Urban Scholars curriculum for this extra study class, and we'll be good to go.
This is
Right.
good to know. Again, the parents listening, they can advocate for certain classes that if they don't already offer it on your campus, or ask about it.
Mhm.
It may exist and you may not be aware, but of course, we're making you aware here on the Falling for Learning podcast.
Yeah.
So, find out if you have it or advocate to have it, because they already have the program in Los Angeles Unified School District, in the Antelope Valley, Compton Unified. Are there
Compton
any other?
Unified, Palm Beach, Santa Monica College. I mean, Santa Monica Unified. We're in one of the schools there. We're also in Inglewood Unified as well. So
Okay, so
we're
lots
still
of places in Southern California you
Mhm.
can find out. Are you in other states, or you're just in California for now?
Great question. We're in Houston as well, Houston, Texas, in the Houston Independent School District as well. Yep.
Okay. All right. So
Mhm.
we are, you all are in Texas, Houston, Texas, and Southern California. So these are great information. Again, our listeners are from across the United States. So, you might be interested in again, advocating for this to be in your school, or for it to happen if it's not in your school yet. It may already be in your school district, but not in your particular child's school. So something you
Mhm.
can advocate for. So excellent. We're glad
Right.
to find out about this.
So let me
Okay.
tell you just really briefly. So, like in short, it's not just the social emotional learning piece. That's the community building part that we started at the
Right.
beginning. We also go into a little bit of social movement building and the history of that, particularly in the areas that we're in. So you'll learn more about what the movement building looked like.
Join us for Well Educated Wednesdays every Wednesday on Instagram Live at Falling for Learning. It is a free parent question and answer session where parents can ask questions, learn about resources, strategies, and tips to make sure their children are on track for learning and stay on track for success. That's every Wednesday on Instagram Live at Falling for Learning. We look forward to seeing you and helping the next generation thrive.
In Southern California if you're in LA,
Mm-hmm.
or actually what's going on in Houston too if you're in Houston.
Okay.
But then the next phase is, okay, now that you know more about yourself, but also even got a deep dive on like what may be next for your life and college or career, because that is an important aspect too. Now
Definitely.
you've touched in about how can I make impact in my community, and then answering the question of what can I do about it. That's where YPAR comes into
Right.
play, the Youth Participatory Action Research Project. So they get to practice the things that they're learning at the same time. Now, mind you, the schools that we work with, and we're in 23 schools across the two different states right now and
Mm-hmm.
growing.
Mm-hmm.
But the schools have us there because we are mostly working with the part of the student population that don't really know what to do with, the ones that kind of make up the school's dropout.
Mm.
They've tried all the other alternative actions, but they don't know what to do. Most of those students are in our class. Now,
Okay.
what we know about students is that those are mostly the leaders on campus. They just need to be directed and stewarded in the right direction, right?
Yes.
Not only are we making impact in the lives of those young people, we're also changing school environments, because now we've helped to have these young people become leaders. But more importantly, the main reason why the schools have us there, we're helping them graduate. We got a
Yes.
95% graduation rate and
Ooh.
an 80% college enrollment rate,
All
right?
right.
So that's the reason why they want us there. We want to make
That's
sure that we can help to raise the numbers, but also raise the acumen of the young people who are on their campus.
pausing to, really for our parents to take in this information. I know that some of us have students that are, really into school or really, on track for learning, but we know that some of them were having a challenge. And so we're looking and searching for those resources. Again, this program, Social Justice Learning Institute, has some, proof that they can
Yeah.
make a change for students that may be having a challenge. Again, our learners, some of them do have, they already have those leadership skills, but the leadership skills may not be used to the best, for the best,
Ability.
but
Mhm.
helping to funnel it into more productive uses. And in this case, they are questioning, authority, but in a productive way.
Yeah.
So, a lot of kids will be interested in that, because they're obviously unhappy. We know that our young kids are sometimes unhappy about certain things going on. They don't know how to articulate it, they don't know what to do about it. But giving them some agency about how to, speak up for themselves and advocate for some changes.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
agency is such an important part of the puzzle. You're spot on, and I should mention, like, yes, that is the majority of the students that we're working with, but we're working with all walks of life of young people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I like to
Mm-hmm.
say, like, unlike some programs, we don't cream, right? Like, so we're being focused on the other 90% who may not get wraparound support. Some of them are system involved, some of them are system adjacent. That they may know
Right.
somebody who actually is system
Mm-hmm.
involved.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to actually move on to the next phase of their life. And the Urban Scholars Program is in the schools and while they're in high school, but we also follow them all the way towards the persistence of them becoming young adults, right? So some of them are
Wonderful.
going to college, some of them are going directly into the workforce, but they're
Mm-hmm.
all part of our alumni network that we have wraparound support services for too, so they can navigate the treacherous years of 18 to 25. You know what I'm saying? So, it's this thing in this community that we're building of people who are oriented towards civic engagement, people who are thinking about how they can be agents of change in their community. Some are just thinking about the importance of voting. Some of them are thinking about going into local office. Like,
Right.
all of it is because they've been able to be a part of this program and think through how they can make change in the communities in which they're from.
Wonderful. Wow. So, can you tell us a little bit more about those wraparound services that you talked about as they
Mhm.
are moving on from high school?
Yeah, so even when they're in high school, the class is the class, but the program is
Hmm.
even wide, right? So we do college tours, of different retreats that we do with them, particularly
Okay.
to help them out with their research. They have the ability to have an academic and career services coordinator that is trying to make sure that they are on course towards graduation with their credits. That is helping them apply for colleges when it's the time in order to do that.
Okay.
Talking to the families, making sure they're set up for FAFSA, like the whole nine. Like we do that work. But when they graduate high school, we're also supporting them and making sure they have college success. So we have a college success counselor that is talking with them one on one at least 2 or 3 times throughout the year while they're in their semester.
Hmm.
We also have gatherings for all those who may be in that cohort to continue to create that community. We
Right.
have a support group, right? So when they do come back, we have a dad's group. We have mental health sessions. This is the first time that they may be getting an apartment and they got behind on rent one month and they need some help. Well, we got you.
Excellent.
We have scholarships, like there's a whole, my car broke down and I don't know what to do and help them navigate the
Wonderful.
services as far as that's concerned too. We really understand how high touch it needs to be, particularly for young folks of color, because a lot of times this is the first time and they may be the first people in their families navigating through these issues. So if they have the solutions, those solutions can be extended that they can bring to their families as well.
So, I really wanted to highlight something you said earlier. You were saying you guys have a dad's program.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
tell us more. Tell us more.
So we have again, this is most of the young folks that we're working with are young men.
Hmm.
We do work with young women too. In fact, we just piloted our young women's program, but I'll stick a pin in that for a second. But
Okay.
um, when they are going through their lives, they have different encounters. They have different situations of what they're going through. Now, everybody who's a part of the dad group is not just a dad. These
Okay.
are these are some of our older alumni that are 28, 29, 30 years old who are in the space. They are. Some
Okay.
of the younger folk who are fathers are part of the group too, and they're having really robust discussions around what it looks like to be a black father in this world.
Mm.
Many of the supporting cast, like myself, I highlight. I come in and out of that space sometimes, giving my 2 cents. But all of the mental health groups and also the groups that we have are stewarded also with a licensed therapist sometimes too,
Okay.
so that we're bringing really thoughtful, well-rounded conversation that can get towards an endpoint to help these young people really navigate some of these really tough issues that they may be dealing with. But sometimes you just need a group to kick it with, and it serves
Exactly.
that purpose.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So you put a pin in the young ladies. Tell us about your young ladies group a little bit.
All
Where
right,
you
so
got that.
I'm a girl dad, right? Um, and I love my daughters. I have a 17-year-old and a 9-year-old. And my 17-year-old has been around. I've been with the Social Justice Learning Institute for about 14 years now. And
Okay.
I say all the time that she probably has the most volunteer hours than anybody else who's ever been a part of this organization. And when you have questions that are asked like, Dad, this is so great what y'all do, but like, what about us? Right?
Hmm.
And you start to really ask the questions about what is the experience for young women of color, particularly young black girls.
Hmm.
You can't assume that it's the same thing as what the young men are going through.
Right.
So as we decided to, under my leadership, I became the executive director here at SJLI in 2021.
Hmm.
And one of the very first things we did was start to do the research around what it would take to start a young women's program. What aspects could we have that could
Hmm.
give the same type of value, but is specific to their experience?
Okay.
Um, and so we finally got to the point where that curriculum was created. Thanks to Mrs. Angela Johnson, as well as Mrs. Jamila McGee, who really led that charge here at SJLI. We are now in the piloting phase at Diamond Lee High School as well as LA High with
Okay.
our Young Women's program as well. So
Wonderful.
really cool. It's urban for young women, and we're really excited about that to be able to grow and have just as much impact as the Urban Scholars for Young Men class has
So
been over the
so
years.
Urban Young Women is what it's called?
Urban Scholars for Young Women.
Urban Scholars for Young Women. Again,
Yeah, yeah.
another program to advocate for if you don't have it on your campus, or to ask your administrators or district officials if you could have this on your program on your school
Mhm.
site. Well, it's been wonderful to learn so much about what you offer, what the Social Justice Learning Institute offers. And I
Mhm.
have not heard of a program like this where the students are the ones who are doing the research and then putting the action in place.
Mhm.
So this is a really, really good to know about it. I've heard of the Social Justice Learning Institute, but I didn't know about all the things that it did. So
Yeah.
that's true.
Got a lot of great things going. This is, like I said, this is the flagship work. This is what brought us to the party, and we're growing. I know your listeners are from all over the country. Yes, we are in LA. Yes, we are in Houston. We have our eyes towards Baltimore, Atlanta in the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Continue to grow because these issues that we're tackling in our process of how we go about it, this can be useful for young people all across the country, if not all around the world. So we're gonna do our due diligence to try to make as much impact as possible with all of them.
Absolutely. Are there any parting words that you want to tell us about how, parents who have, kids, teenagers, middle
Mhm.
schoolers, what insight can you give them about how to get their kids on track and how to keep them on track for success?
Yeah, thank you for this. Listen, I know I talked about the program, but parent to parent, me and you, right? You see me? Look, look, look. Okay, me and you. Listen, don't give up, right? The world is changing. There's so many things that are taking place. We're entering into an election cycle, but you have the possibility and the opportunity, more importantly, to be the consistency in your child's life. And that may come with a little bit more work, but I want to tell you, you don't have to do it all by yourself. We may only be in a couple different cities, different states, but I know that there are other organizations just like us from all over the across the country that have the same fervor and the same care as we do, and as you do, right? There is Upward Bound, right? There is even Outward Bound. There is
Hmm.
a Posse. There's so many different types of elements of programs that really care about your student being successful. But the part is to connect the dot, the chasm that's between the work that we do and where you want your student to be. You got to help be the drawbridge between those two
Mm,
places, right? So don't give up. Find those people, have those conversations, find like-minded parents like you who are doing the same thing, and have your kids be a
yes.
part of those programs. Because I promise you, that is how we actually make sure that our young folks are the leaders of tomorrow by the work we
Mm,
do today. Okay.
yes.
So there we have it. I hope you are inspired. I hope you continue to keep listening because there's a lot of valuable information that's happening on this podcast.
Thank
And
you.
I'm glad to have my little episode be a part of the magic as well. And if you need to find me on Instagram, we are SJLI, SJLI underscore CA, or SJLI underscore TX on Instagram. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/ my SJLI. We're even on LinkedIn. Just look us up, Social Justice Learning Institute. We're everywhere, right? And if you need to
Yes.
send me an email, it's dsteele@sjli.org, and we can have a conversation about how we can come to your neck of the woods. All right.
Wonderful. We will have all the links in the summary of this episode. So please, link in right there. You'll find the information. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great week.
TD, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.